public presentation of Edwin Ray Guthrie. A little bit about him. He was born in January 9th, 1886 in Lincoln, Nebraska. He grew up with 4 siblings and a mother and a father. He was a very curious and determined kid and excelled very well in school. After he graduated in Nebraska, he attended the University of Nebraska to study mathematics, psychology, and philosophy. After he obtained his bachelor's from the university, he left to get his doctorate degree at the University of Pennsylvania. He then graduated with his doctorate and became a teacher of philosophy at the University of Washington. After moving again to the University of Kansas to work as an assistant professor, he transferred to his true passion, the psychology department. More about him: in June 1920, he got married to the love of his life, named Helen MacDonald. 4 years later, they had a son named Peter, who would later follow in his father's footsteps and be a professor of psychology as well. In 1928, he was promoted to professor and moved his focus more towards exploration of learning. During this time, he co-authored a textbook with a neuropsychologist, Stevenson Smith, and when World War II occurred, he served Washington, D.C. as chief consultant. In this position, he would watch over the branch of general staff sent overseas. In 1943, when he returned to the University of Washington after serving, he was promoted to the dean of the graduate school. He made a lot of good changes there. He worked in this position for 8 years before retiring in 1951. They named the building after him in his honor, and he also received an honorary LL.D. from the University of Nebraska. A year before his death in 1958, he received a gold medal of American Psychology Foundation for an outstanding lifetime contribution to psychology. April 23rd, 1959, he died of a heart attack in Seattle, Washington at the age of 73. His work, some of his most famous pieces of work, the conjugacy theory of learning. He played a major role in developing this theory of learning. It emphasized the importance of the amount of time between stimuli, also known as temporal cognuity. One-trial learning, one of his most notable contributions in the early 20th century, it stood as a revolutionary break in cognition and psychological science. Recency principle. This principle explained why our most recent experiences guided our behaviors, so much so that our responses as individuals are shaped by our recent experiences. He studied habit breaking in humans and animals. He did 2 studies with cats that I noted in my paper. He believed habits were created by a great number of stimuli responding and connecting. And then punishment. He had many theories explaining his views on punishment. He believed that it had a big effect on behaviors in organisms. This is more about his theories. So his learning theory stated that the closer in time stimulus is to a response, the stronger the association becomes. His one-trial learning theory was about the most part accounts for the notion in a single experience is adequate enough to form a continued association between stimuli and responses. Learning was explained to occur when organisms' behavior resulted in a content result. And according to him, once a memory was formed, the remains of it stayed intact and guided future behaviors in similar situations. In his principle, it suggested that our most recently learned associations control our behaviors, and also explained why our most recent experiences guide our behaviors, so much so that they are shaped by our experiences. For habit breaking, he suggested that there were 3 different ways to break a habit: the threshold method, fatigue method, and incompatible response method. The threshold method was bringing in your stimuli associated with the habit at a lesser level so the habit is no longer triggered by the response. The fatigue method talked about reoccurring exposure to the stimuli until the person no longer responded with the habitual response. And then the incompatible response method talked about pairs of stimuli causing habitual behavior, allowing stimuli to trigger an opposite response to the habit. And then punishment, he informed his followers that if given punishment didn't stop the unwanted, the punishment could strengthen the undesired response instead of help. So the importance of his work, one of his most known theories was the law of continuity. It's known as one of the fundamental principles of psychology and helps psychologists understand how associations are formed and how humans learn. Guthrie's idea on behaviorism laid the foundation that led to the study of conditioning and reinforcement done by Skinner, a very popular psychologist. His theories have also made an impact on therapeutic approaches, specifically behavioral modifications and habit reversals. He brought alive techniques of contingency management, altering environments to promote desired behaviors. Perception, attention, and memory were a big part of his beliefs and behaviors, and learning methods continued to be important in behaviorism today. His impact, he left impacts on many psychologists. Sheffield defended his views on the use of positive reinforcement and extended on it to use it as a guide to explain refinement behaviors. Vokes used his implications in his writings for experimental purposes. Tolman used his idea of learning and behavior and incorporated cognitive elements into it, bridging the gap between the two. Hall created his drive reduction theory of learning based off his principle of reinforcement and association, articulating the importance of reinforcement in behavior. Bandra composed a social learning theory, expanding on his ideas. And then Ricola and Wagner together developed a contingency model of classic conditioning based off of Guthrie's ideas of congruity, sharing the importance of stimulus response in learning. In conclusion, he was one of the most prominent psychologists of the century, especially in learning and behavioral field. Not only did he have ideas and theories that left a long-lasting effect, but he also inspired other famous psychologists to build on his knowledge and grow the ideas more profound. And then these are my resources. Thank you.